all you WWE fans. If you want to see some great interviews, you have come to the right place. Pro wrestlers, soap stars, singers, and celebrities, all right here on Skype. This is Chris Van Vliet, and you are listening to the WSE Lounge.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever edition of the WSE Lounge on Skype. I want to thank Cameo and Chris Van Vliet for introducing the WSE Lounge. Without any further ado, please welcome my guest. At this time, he is a super ABC soap opera fan. Please welcome Robert Davis.
Hello, Brian. How are you?
Hey, Robert. How are you? I'm doing good. I wanted to know how are you handling everything going on?
Yeah, I'm here in California. It's we're still in lockdown. It's a little hot. The weather's getting hotter, but we're managing.
That's good. I know here in Georgia, they've lifted the bans on certain things. I think today today or tomorrow they're opening swimming pools and stuff like that. I know in California now, I read that y'all's governor and mayor is kind of a little bit stricter on stuff, on opening stuff up.
Right. Yeah, they've opened some of the beaches up, but there's restrictions on going to the beaches. So.
Well, I don't think they should have a lot of people at the beaches and, until all this is cleared up. And I've noticed there's a lot of people that are at the beaches, at some beaches at least, from what I've seen.
Yeah, but as the weather gets hotter and summer gets closer, there's going to be more and more people going to the beach. So that's going to be hard to control. But
yeah, and now tell me about before we get into talking about the soaps and all that stuff. Tell me about how you first started liking Aaron Carter. Did you know Aaron?
Oh, yeah. Well, back in the day, growing up, I was a Backstreet Boys fan, and so I had went to their concerts, and then Aaron is the younger brother of Nick Carter, who's of the Backstreet Boys, so I got into that, and so I've met him a few times. He's a pretty nice guy.
And I know when I was younger, I used to love the song that Aaron sung, "I Want Candy." I always loved that song.
Yeah, that's a pretty good song. I think a couple of years ago he did a remix, an electronic dance remix. So I think that's out there.
So how's Aaron doing now?
I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but as far as I know, he's in I think Lancaster, and I think he's what I heard is his ex-girlfriend is going to have his baby soon. So I don't know.
Well, that'll be good, and I know that I know you've also done other conventions before. You've met other celebrities in different walks from television shows and stuff like that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, let's see. Well, I've talked to you before about this, but I went on the TMZ tour I think it was 3 years ago. And then after that, I was appearing on TMZ as a caller. They have regular callers who they call in rotation. So I had done that for about maybe a year. It's been a year since I've been on it, but I was able to meet different people, and it's just kind of something fun to do.
So how did you feel when you first got the call from TMZ that they wanted to have you on?
I was surprised. I had filled out, when I went on the tour, I filled out a card saying, they asked if anyone wanted to be on the show. So I filled out the card, and it was maybe 2 months later. I forgot about it, and then they called 2 months later and asked if I was available. And so I was. So that's how I started on that.
That's awesome, I'll tell you. So now we move on to the soap opera part, I guess you could say. So when did you first become a soap opera? I mean, how did it come about? Did you have a relative that watched soap operas? Did you have a friend that watched soap operas, or did you just get involved in them?
Yeah, well, my mom did watch soaps, but she watched Days of Our Lives and I believe Another World back in the day. I never got into those, but a friend of mine had talked about General Hospital when I was like in, I think, middle school or high school. So one summer, I had nothing to do, so I spent the summer watching General Hospital. And then when you start watching one, like, you turn it on and then they show the promos for the other shows, and you just kind of start watching the whole lineup.
Yeah, you kind of get hooked on all of them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to do. I remember when I was growing up as a kid. Uh, it was in middle school. The funny thing about it is, I remember. Now I remember in elementary school, starting off. If I ever checked out of school sick, I would check. I tuned into One Life to Live, and I would see Todd and Bo and them
Right.
kids, the criminal and the good guy, and then in middle school, the funny thing is I had nobody that talked about soaps. I didn't really talk about soaps. It was mainly about wrestling, what was going to happen that Monday night, back when they had the Monday night wrestling and all that. But I mean, it's really interesting when you think about it, though, about the different dynamics that goes into the soap operas, because you turn it on one and you're like, okay, I got to check this one out because of the fashion side of it. I want to see what's going to happen. And I'm referring to Bold and Beautiful. Then you turn on another one when Passions is on, and you're like, okay, what kind of wicked, crazy stuff am I going to
Yeah.
see Tabitha?
Yeah.
And so it's really, really amazing and really interesting about how you can get involved in the different soap operas, and how they all have their differences, even though some are the same. You know.
Yeah, I hear you. Right. Especially with the ABC shows, because they did a lot of crossovers. So there would be a lot of characters from one show who would guest star on another show, or certain storylines that would cross over. I remember, I think it was about 10 years ago, All My Children and One Life to Live did a baby switch storyline in which the babies from, I can't remember now, but a baby ended up on one show that belonged on another show, and the characters would cross over, and it was fun, and it kind of kept you intertwined in both shows.
Yeah, that was with Kelly Kramer and
Right. It was
Babe Chandler,
right, correct.
and that was I believe it was Paul Babe.
Right. That is correct. Yes.
Was Kelly's brother. And the funny thing about it is, a lot of soap fans don't know this, but the lady that played Heather Tom, who played Kelly Kramer at the time, that was actually her real life brother.
Right, that's correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And so when you were younger, did you watch Knox Landing as well? Because I know I grew up on Knox Landing.
Right. I did, as a matter of fact, correct. Yeah, I did watch some of those primetime shows. I watched Knots Landing, and growing up, I watched Melrose Place and certain shows. They did air reruns on like SoapNet and some of the other channels, so I did watch a lot of those.
Well, Knox Landing, I seem to have watched more. I mean, I watched Dallas. I focused a lot on Dallas, but I remember Knox Landing more for some reason. I remember you had Paige and Greg Summer,
Right.
Mac, and Paul, and I mean Gary. I'm sorry,
Gary, yeah.
Mac, and so I mean it was really, really neat, and I really enjoyed it. And I know they've been having all these great reunions of different soap operas, from Guiding Light, and they got One Life to Live coming up. They should do
Right.
a Knox Landing reunion. I think that'd be great.
They had just done, well, they did two in the last 2 weeks, a Dallas reunion. They did one on YouTube about 2 weeks ago. And then earlier this week, they did a virtual fan experience. I didn't do that one, but you had to pay for that one, and it was interactive. But I did meet some of the cast of Dallas last September in Anaheim. They did a convention. And so I was able to meet some of those cast members. So that was pretty fun.
Wow, yeah, I know that. I saw Patrick Duffy on something the other day, and I noticed that he had really aged since last time I seen him.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing I think he's in his early 70s. I'm not sure exactly, but his hair is pretty much white. But
Yeah.
he's still in good shape, and he's still working. So
What about the lady that played Joan Van Ark, the one that played Valene?
I've never met her, but yeah,
What about Susan? Did you ever meet Susan? I
Susan.
mean,
Who?
Karen.
Who?
Karen.
Oh, no, no, no. I haven't. I don't think I've met any of the cast of Knots Landing, as far as I can recall.
Okay, and now before we move into the soap operas of what's going on today, I do want to bring up real quick something a little funny, and I think I've mentioned this before doing the WSE on the other platform. Uh, the only memory I have of Falcon Crest, because I know Falcon Crest was a big show that a lot of fans liked, but the only remembrance I have of that is a man walking into a lady's room and getting a pillow and fixing to smother. And that's all I remember.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That was, I actually remember that. That was the final season. The star of the show, Jane Wyman, she was played Angela. She was the head of the family. And for medical reasons, she had to leave the show. And so what they did was they had this new character come in and he tried to smother her. And she ended up in a coma. That's how they wrote her out of the show for the rest of the season. And then she did come back for the finale. But I do remember that storyline. Yes.
Wow, that's very interesting. Can you tell us real quick about some of the experiences? Like I see some pictures behind you on the wall about you going and meeting. I know you've met a lot of the soap opera stars at not only conventions but also on the red carpet at the Daytime Emmy Awards. Can you tell us?
Yeah, sure. The good thing about, living in California is you get these opportunities to meet different people. So I did attend the daytime Emmys, I think it was 3 years ago. And so on the red carpet, I did get to meet some of not only the GH stars, but from other shows as well. I met, Laura Wright. I remember Brian Craig, Kelly Monaco. I've met her before, but I met her that day as well. Chloe Lanier, who plays Nell. Those are the ones that come to mind. Unfortunately, I had also met, he's passed away now, but Christophe St. John. He was Neil Winters on Young and Restless. He was very nice, and unfortunately, he passed away last year. So, but when I met him, he was a very nice gentleman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Kristen. I remember, calling into a soap show he was on, and I believe it was with Pam and Doug. And
Okay.
when I was talking to Pam and Doug, I remember talking to Christopher, and at the time, Lily was doing the cancer storyline. When she had cancer.
Oh, right, right.
And Devon was doing the storyline of when he couldn't hear and stuff. And I spoke to Christopher, and Christopher was real nice, and I was so sad to hear about his passing.
Yeah, I was too.
I mean,
Tragic.
And then I believe it was about a month ago, you had Roscoe Bourne, who played Mitch.
Right, right. I grew up watching Roscoe. He was, of course, Mitch on One Life to Live, and then I believe he was on a bunch of other shows. Santa Barbara. I didn't watch that show. I know he was on Santa Barbara. He was on Ryan's Hope, and I think he was on some other primetime shows. I can't remember exactly, but I know he was on a lot of shows. But
yeah, I know he was on Santa Barbara because on if you look on Roku, they got a channel where they play episodes of Santa Barbara and what was the other show? Sunset Beach.
Okay. Oh, I think he was on All My Children too, for a short bit. He played, I can't remember his character's name. He was involved with Brooke English. Something about a plane crash. There was a plane crash, and I remember that.
I didn't even know he was involved with Brooke up there.
Yeah, and I think for maybe 6 months, and then they recast his character for somebody else. I think can't remember. That was like in the late '90s, I think.
So what was it like for you meeting Stone Cold and Jackal? T-Bar.
That was pretty fun. So they, as you know, now they're doing a podcast, but prior to their podcast, they were doing this two-man show. It was a comedy routine where they would, do comedy, which is kind of funny because when you think of Stone Cold, you don't really think of comedy, but Spinelli, he's more the comedian. But they do this two-man show, and I saw their show at the fan club weekend about 3 years ago, and they were pretty nice. I met both of them, got their autograph. Steve, for whatever reason, he kept calling me Dr. Oz. I don't know why. I guess he thought I looked like Dr. Oz. So every time he'd pick on someone in the audience, he'd just point to me and say, "Yes, you, Dr. Oz," in the back.
That's funny. Yeah, Steve's quite a character. I've never had the privilege of talking to him or meeting him, but I remember one time he was doing the Burton Nutrition. On the internet, Burton Nutrition.
Sure.
And it was my birthday. And the whole time I kept saying, "Hey, can you tell me happy birthday? My name's Brian." So right when he gets down to the end, he's going, "Okay, I want to tell everybody goodbye and keep losing weight and do the nutrition." He said he goes like this. He goes, "Oh yeah, and by the way, for that girl, or might be a guy named Brian, happy birthday."
Oh, very nice.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. So getting back to your earlier comment, I do have a funny story to tell you about the daytime Emmys red carpet. So there was one, most of the stars were very nice. I got photos with all of them. I think the best experience I had was coming down the red carpet was Susan Lucci. And I just approached her. I've never met her before. And I said, "Miss Lucci, I'm a big fan. I'd like a photograph," and she was very nice. And she said, "Of course." And she took the time out of her way to take a photograph with me. And I appreciated that. But there was one star in particular who I had somewhat of a bad experience about. So if you'd like, I'd like to share that experience. So just to preface, this person is not a mainstay on the soaps. They were a guest star. And that person was Nichelle Nichols. She was most famous for playing Lieutenant Uhura in the Star Trek series back in the 60s. So I'm sure, over the years, she's had many encounters with Star Trek fans who've asked for her autograph. So on, I believe, Young and the Restless, she was playing Neil's mother. She was nominated for guest star. And so when I was at the Emmys, I was approaching different stars asking for autographs and photos. So I approached her and I said, "Hello, Miss Nichols, I'm a big fan. I'd like to take your autograph." And she said, "What, dear?" I said, "Oh, Miss Nichols, I'd like your autograph." She turned to me and said very politely, "Oh, no, dear, I'm off the clock." So I said, "Oh, I'm sorry to bother you." But in her defense, I would have to say that, I'm sure she's probably approached at restaurants or public places by different Star Trek fans. And maybe through the years, she's just decided not to do that. So.
That is funny. That's
yeah.
Funny. And let's see. Oh yeah, back to something else earlier. Can you tell us about the pictures on your wall behind you?
Yeah, most of the pictures are from the General Hospital Fan Club weekend. Every year they do a fan club, usually around July or August. So I've attended the last several years. You get to meet a lot of the cast. I think I've met almost most of the cast. There's a few cast members I haven't met. I think the biggest cast members I haven't met is Finola Hughes and Jeannie Francis. Finola was supposed to appear at the General Hospital Convention, which was to take place this spring. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, they've rescheduled it to the fall. So I do hope I get that opportunity to meet her because I was looking forward to meeting her this spring at the convention, but that's been postponed. So hopefully I can still have that opportunity.
My friend, he said that he's met Finola Hughes and Tristan Rogers, and my friend is a big Hulk Hogan fan. and he said that when he met Finola Hughes and Tristan Rogers, he did his Hulk Hogan impersonation, said, "Hey, brother," and all that. And he said that Tristan Rogers, he just loved it, and said Finola Hughes laughed and everything. Said, "Oh, Malcolm, that's really funny. That's really good. That's a good Hulk Hogan impersonation."
Yeah, I met Tristan twice. Tristan's a very nice guy. So I have a funny story about Tristan as well. So I think the first time I met Tristan was about 3 years ago. It was at a comedy show that Sean Kanan, he was formerly on General Hospital. He played AJ, and then he went to Bold and Beautiful. He was doing a comedy show, and Tristan at the time was on Young and the Restless. So he was at the show. So I got to meet him, and I told him, I was a big fan of his on General Hospital. And then last year I met him again at the fan club weekend. And so, I approached him again. I said, "Hello, Mr. Rogers. I'm a big fan. We met a couple of years ago." And Tristan had been drinking at the fan club weekend.
Oh, my goodness.
He held up a drink, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't remember." And he goes, "And after tonight," he held up his drink. He says, "I'm probably not going to remember tonight." He says,
That's funny.
yeah.
For the longest time, I had to Google this, because for the longest time, I thought that the old cartoon that came on, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, the heavy set rat with like the blue shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought for the longest time that Tristan did his voice, but I found out they didn't.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because
Interesting.
if you ever listen to the cartoon, that rat, the voice sounds just like Tristan talking.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. So interesting about Tristan and his accent. So Tristan is from Australia, but maybe fans don't know John York, who plays his younger brother Mac, is American. And so when he first came on the show, he had to do an Australian accent. And I think over the years, it's kind of morphed into a more of an American accent. But John's character Mac is also Australian. So.
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know I didn't know his character. He was Australian.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah.
And then somebody mentioned to me the other day when they said that Holly had gotten killed on there.
Yeah.
They said that it could have been her sister. I didn't know Holly had.
Oh, right. So back in, I totally forgot about that. Back in the early 90s, Holly had an identical twin sister, kind of like how Anna has Alex. Holly had a sister named Paloma who looked exactly like Holly. I totally forgot about that until you mentioned that. So they did a storyline, I remember, with Bill Eckert, and then Holly had this sister, and she was identical. She was also played by Emma Samms. Yeah, I forgot about that. Now, Holly, was a big fan favorite back in the day. She's been on the show a few times. I think the last time she was on was about 4 years ago when Anthony Geary left. She came on to complete his storyline. He was doing a quest to find Lucky, and I think she was helping him there. I think that's the last time she's been on General Hospital.
Yeah, I've only seen her a few times. I mean, I don't remember Holly like I do Frisco or Felicia.
Right.
I guess because she was on there when I was, still in elementary school, growing up.
She was on in the 80s, and then she left. She went on to Dynasty and the Colbys, and then she came back in the early 90s. Her character was killed off screen in I think a plane crash, and then she came back in the 90s and was on for a couple years, and then I think she came back in 2006, I think.
Wow. Well, as I was watching GH today, I know toward the end of it, and somebody mentioned this on Facebook, but I never saw Sasha. Somebody said that Sasha was doing drugs. I saw a bunch of stuff kind of sprawled out on the table, and I'm guessing it was drugs, but I didn't know that Sasha did them.
I see. I haven't seen today's episode, so I don't know.
Okay.
But I'll look. I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, you have to check that
Interesting.
out.
Now, as you know, or maybe you're not aware, the show is running out of new episodes because of the pandemic. So next week is going to be the last week of new episodes. So after next week, they're going to air reruns. They're starting with the Nurse's Ball from 2014 and 15. So yeah, there won't be new episodes at least until the fall.
Yeah, I had asked Nathan Verney the other day. I asked him. I said, one of y'all's episodes run up. He said May the 21st.
Right.
Said that for General Hospital to come back and do the show, he would have to really meet the guidelines. They had to really sanitize stuff and all that to make sure that it was adequate for the crew and the cast to come back. And he told me that the crew members would be wearing masks.
Oh wow.
Scenes.
Yeah.
He said during the scenes they wouldn't be wearing masks, but he did say that for the ABC primetime shows, the earliest they're talking about coming back is in sometime in August.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's what I found out on that part. And speaking of soaps, these are the last, and this is very sad. I mean, I know you probably bought some of these books through the years as well. This is the last two editions of ABC Soaps in Depth.
Oh, yes.
And then the last edition of CBS Soaps in Depth. So, I mean.
Okay. I did hear, I believe 2 weeks ago that there was a Twitter announcement. They were going out of publication. They were stopping publication for that magazine. So I don't have a subscription to. I still have a subscription to Digest on digital. But I haven't had a subscription to Soaps in Depth for a while. I think last year I did buy one copy to get it signed at the fan club. And that was the last time I bought the magazine. But yeah, it's pretty sad. Unfortunately, I had to end publication.
Yeah, I never had a subscription. I just always would buy it at the store. And
Right.
I always loved reading the magazines.
Yeah.
And seeing the different pictures and stuff. And I know sometimes, during the fan club, I would see, I think matter of fact, picture one of them.
I'm sorry?
I said, wasn't your picture one of the fan clubs? No, I remember you were at the fan club, but your picture didn't get in there, right?
Oh, no. Yeah. They did have a photographer from In Depth magazine, and they were taking photos of the fan club weekend. I didn't make the magazine, but they did take photos there, yes.
Okay, and I believe the only other question that I got for you, I want to know, what are your thoughts on, now, do you watch Days? Do you watch Days?
I don't, no.
You don't, okay. Well, just to give you a little catch up, you know who Johnny's car is, Brandon Burray.
Right, correct.
Okay, well, he was brought back into the show as a mechanic, supposedly, who Ben's working for, and his name is Jake. Well, Gabby has swore up and down that he was Stephen. Well, she went to the older guy, I forgot his name, but she went to him in prison and said, hey, I want to know, is Jake Stephen? And he said, yes, it is. So, the crazy thing about soap operas is this. Okay, he supposedly dies. They give his heart to Julie, but he's still alive, that guy said, as Jake, and he doesn't remember that he was Stefan, but yet he's still alive. So how in the world is he still alive if he doesn't have his heart and it's for Julie?
Right. That reminds me of, there was, I don't know if you've seen it, there was a movie in the early 90s with Whoopi Goldberg and Sally Field called Soap Dish. And it was about the backstage of a soap opera. And one of the storylines was they were bringing back a character who had been killed, and the character had his head chopped off. And so Whoopi Goldberg was the head writer, and they're like, Whoopi, we're bringing back so-and-so. And she's like, how am I supposed to write for this guy? He has no head. And so that was kind of a funny story.
That is funny. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the WSC Lounge today, Robert. I hope I did good. I'm a little nervous starting off because this is my first rodeo with this Zoom. I mean, not Zoom, this Skype thing.
Sure.
Up out there called Zoom, but I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your stories. And this show will be up for everybody. If everybody's watching this now, you'll be watching it on Tuesday, May the 19th. So it'll be going.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
You're very welcome. Before you go, let me do the closing of the show. That way we get that recorded as well. And I know you know who this person is. Let's see if we can get this. There we go.
My name's Hudson West, and I'm from Deepwater on General Hospital. I'm also playing Trevor Kraft on Penny Dreadful. And I'm here at WSE Lounge, and thank you for listening.
That was Hudson West. And thank you so much for being on, Robert. And I'll keep in touch with you, and this show will drop on Houston. Hope we can get a lot of views. This great show.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.